Hi everyone, and welcome to Inderes Defense Day. In this video, we'll be going through Saab as an equity story. And to do that, I have here with me Merton Kaplan, Head of Investor Relations from Saab. Hi Merton, good to have you.
Same, thanks for being here.
So let's start from a very simple idea. Of course, many viewers surely know what Saab is as a company, but there's many things within the company. So if you put the company briefly, what are your products? What are you doing?
Yes, I'll try to answer that in a short way. So we're a Swedish defense company with roots going back to 1937, and where Sweden is one of our biggest customer, roughly 40% of our revenues. And we have been a pretty small defense company in a large industry, where we have focused on certain technology areas. That has been the strength of Saab over these years, over years of investments. And today we're a company where we become a large cap company, and we have seen enormous growth in the past few years, driven by the change geopolitical landscape. And Saab is a company pretty well positioned with that portfolio, and with more than 21,000 employees, based majority in Sweden but also abroad. So we're a company that's growing internationally, but we're also strengthening our position in Swedish market. And I think we're a company with good opportunities in now that Sweden is also in NATO, and we have a much more industrial cooperation, where defense has also become a very, very important part of society, and how we secure our borders and protect our societies, but also how we can support, for instance, Ukraine in this situation.
Saab obviously has a lot of products in its portfolio, and I guess you have something for the air, you have something for the ground, and something for the sea as well. So can you give a couple of examples what kind of products Saab is developing?
It's correct. We, as I mentioned, we have actually, for being relative to our size, we have a pretty broad portfolio dating back to how we have invested and focused on technological base that Sweden has. And so when we look at our business today, we have 5 core areas, which we call, and one is the fighter systems that we do, where we cover the air. And then we have land-based solutions, which is more like advanced weapon system, more ground combat type of systems. We have something called also the underwater, where we produce submarines. And we also have surveillance and intelligence systems, where that area is sensors and radars and command and control. So these 5 areas constitute the areas that we invest in, that we're strong in the market. And it's quite fascinating that we have this capability as a Swedish defense company, and in this industry. That's why we become so attractive right now.
I know there's lots of nuance around each product and what's driving their demand, but if you look at the big picture and Saab's markets and the niches where you're focusing, what kind of drivers do you see for your products and their demand right now?
Right now, with the unfortunate situation we have in Europe, with Russia's aggression on Ukraine and that war, and also we see a lot of other uncertainties around the world. So foremost, we see a lot of demand and interest for what we call as our short cycle type of business, which is anti-tank weapons, for instance. It's a huge demand for that, ammunition, which a lot of countries in Europe and USA has sent to support Ukraine with. So there's a lot of demand for our dynamics division. And this is products that we manufacture and do in Sweden, and we have a bit of shorter lead time to deliver these things. The second, I think, the area where we see significant interest right now, which is our surveillance division. So surveillance is where I mentioned before, we do a lot of sensors, advanced radars, and we put them on ships, on fighters, on also on mobile ground-based defense systems. So these are the areas that have become Saab's growth engine, I would say, in this landscape. So we have, I mean, our orders are fully booked, and we are facing obviously a lot of challenges to deliver these, and it takes time because the demand is so high. But these two areas have become very important for Saab as we speak right now. But we have, I mean, we have interest and we have demand from a lot of customers, almost for the entire portfolio, I would say, even for the Gripen fighter system. So I can't say that this one is less important right now, but it's an urgent need for Ukraine to receive support and weapons so they can defend themselves. So it's been a massive demand and massive orders on particularly the ground-based capabilities that we have, but also for surveillance, more complex advanced systems that can be deployed in the war.
If we look some years out and think about the demand, of course, there's now a surge in demand, but when you look at the defense budgets in the markets you're focusing on, do you think there is a sustained higher level of investment in defense technologies right now?
Right, it is a totally different market that we operate today in, and then we did 2 years back before the war broke out, and we have obviously there's been an awakening in Europe, in the world, particularly in Europe, but also within the NATO framework. So this has meant that a lot of countries have that previously was dismantling their defense and armed forces are now back to strengthen that. So there's enormous money flowing in to the sector, to the industry, and this is based on the budgets, obviously. So there's a still a bit. I think we're still in the beginning of this cycle of industry ramp up, where countries have to reach 2% of GDP, and some experts say that that's not enough. We have several countries like Poland, for instance, who's spent more than almost closer to 4% of GDP. And Sweden has now recently stated that they will reach 2.6% of GDP by 2030. So there's obviously a big uplift in the budgets, and these are obviously to strengthen what has been lacking in terms of defense capabilities and technologies, but also what they need to further support Ukraine. So we have seen this. I've never seen any industry like this moving so fast, and this is obviously affecting Saab and the rest of the defense players.
Right. And it seems like a more sustained demand driver instead of just a short term.
We believe that with this awakening, with Europe and NATO, the society have realized that we have to invest in this for the longer term. So we don't think that this is a short-term impact just because we have a war in our neighbor. This is fundamental, a structural shift where everything from politicians to industry leaders have to consider strengthening the capabilities that they need also for the future, because we're in the middle of a technological transition with AI, connectivity, digitalization, and where we have to work smarter and we have to find more competitive solutions. I mean, cost-efficient solutions. And right now, the demand is particularly for things that we, as a manufacturer, have that can produce. But in 5 to 10 years' time, we're going to need other types of capabilities because the threat situation is developing as fast. So we have to think about what technologies we need to add and what the society will need in 10 years' time to defend itself. So all of these things, we think that it's going to be a long-term, at least a decade of high level of defense spending, but we're in the beginning of it, and it's now right now it's a strong growth, but we think that we will see growth for many years, and that's what we are preparing for as a Saab defense company.
Yeah. You touched upon this already a little bit, but on your competitive advantages and maybe also disadvantages, how do you see Saab's strengths and weaknesses in the overall defense market?
Like I mentioned, right now we have customers and partners. They are literally ready to buy anything that's available because we have a shortage. Obviously, the industry has a shortage in putting out because we have a capacity roof on a lot of things. So there's going to take time before we can deliver more things to the market. I would say that competitive advantage that Saab has that we have realized obviously is the products that we have are I would say highly technologically advanced. It comes from our competence to do things more cost efficiently. It comes from our good know-how of building things from historical point of view. When it comes to fighters, when it comes to ground-based close combat system like Carl Gustaf and NLAW and anti-tank weapons. So these have proven, especially these products have proven to be very successful in Ukraine. Hence, the market has obviously approved and accepted that our products are on top, I would say, in terms of quality and also value that you can get. So we have a pretty good advantage in terms of market. I would say in terms of the products that we offer to the market, and they are competitive in the way that I just mentioned. That we're not the cheapest company offering, but we are not the highest either. So we offer good value to these customers, and budgets are tight still. I mean, even though we have increased budgets, we know that it's tax money payers, so we have to continue to be efficient in our solutions. So I would say that we have a portfolio right now. It fits. Literally, it covers and fits exactly the demand. But we also have, if you ask me, where do I want to see more orders coming in? I would like to see some more Gripen contracts, because we are one of the few countries in the world, I would say. In Europe, it's the French and the Swedes that can build a fighter jet or system from scratch, from the ground, and not including the American players that can build fighters. So we have this capability, and I think that it is something that we have developed over these years together with Sweden. So we would like to have more, obviously, a bit more traction on Gripen contracts from customers. But I would also see we're also doing submarines that I said. Submarine program, it takes many years to build that, and so right now we're building 2 submarines to Sweden, but we would also like to have a bit more demand for submarines because of the capability that we have, and we want to be able to sustain this expertise for the future, and the only way to do it is if customers order more.
Yeah. And if you also touch upon the disadvantages, I guess what you mentioned was that the products you have, for the purpose they've been developed for, they're competitive. But I guess that also means that you don't have a product for every single use case. And I guess also you're quite focused on Sweden, of course, also NATO countries in Europe. Do you see any disadvantages geographically in certain markets?
So this if you talk about disadvantages or more unfavorable advantages or unfavorable position in the market, I would probably say it like this: we do have a broad portfolio, and like I said, we're strong in most of them. We are very competitive on most of them. However, we don't, for instance, do cars today, and we don't do battle tanks. We don't do certain larger ships, larger vessel platforms. We don't do. We're not everywhere. So that's also, we don't want to be everywhere either, and we're not, as given our profile as a Swedish defense company, we don't sell everywhere either. So we have identified certain markets that it's good for Saab to be. Having been historically a neutral country, we have been very good and business friendly, but it also certain we can't export to certain countries. So I would say in that respect, we don't. The whole market is not what we serve, which means that we have regions and countries where we operate more, and that's where we're trying to grow. So that is our profile, and also, like I mentioned, in terms of the portfolio, we don't need to be everywhere, because our focus and expertise have been these 5 core areas, and I think we can capture a lot of further growth in those areas.
Yeah. Following up on that, if you think about your strategy and the choices you've made, what you have decided to focus on and what you've decided to sort of leave out of focus, how would you describe your strategy right now?
So our strategic framework in this environment where we have so much pressure from customers to deliver, it is, I would say, I will actually start with the challenges. It's one of the biggest challenges that we have today, is to push out and deliver as fast as customers want. But it also requires that this is an industry where things and processes, decisions take long time. So our strategy right now is, number 1, is to actually to meet our commitments to the customers. The customers that we have promised that they will get their equipment as fast as they can, and we have long-term programs that we are continuing to work on. So our priority is obviously to get and deliver to customers. So it is It is a high activity level in the company. So strategically, we have to deliver and focus on that. A part of the strategy is, of course, that I mentioned the markets that we at Saab have focused on is for instance, outside of Sweden, it's the US market where we have been around for a while and where we continue to grow. It's the US, the UK, Germany, Australia. So these are our strategic markets. And it's defined in our strategy that we want to build smaller entities, which we do, with operations and with people and with R&D teams in those countries. So we are part of the ecosystem. So the strategy of Saab is to, like I said before, it's not to be everywhere in every market. We can't. So we have been focusing on these markets. So this is pretty much the strategy. We call it the multi-domestic strategy, and we are growing in these markets, or we are growing in line with the defense budgets on these markets. Another thing that is, I said, which is a challenge right now is, and which is also part of the strategy and focus, is how we ramp up capacity. So a lot of energy is put on increasing capacity. We're building new production facilities, and we have to also hire a lot of people, and we have to maintain, attract, and also, develop this talent pool. So that's one of the challenges that we have, but we successfully managed to attract a lot of new employers and new people to Saab. But it is also one of the cornerstones that without the people, without the engineering skills and the talent that we have, we can't really deliver and we can't really meet those obligations of the customer. So it's very important part of the strategy, Saab strategy, to attract as much as we can good competence, because we're working with very complex systems. That's the strategy in a nutshell. I would go into also that we strive to be a sustainable company in terms of our emission targets, and also in terms of our responsible sales policies, where we try to comply with export rules and you do due diligence and try to really improve our performance in those aspects, because we think now that we are more accepted as an investment from many shareholders. I think it's very important that we also deliver on those KPIs as well.
Right. So would it be fair to say that the current strategy is a lot about focusing on the current products, their production capacity, delivery capacity, their competitiveness, and the current markets, and not so much about expanding to new products and new markets?
It's correct. We have to execute, so it's a lot of focus on execution. We have to, as I said, we're a company. Last year we grew 23% organically, and this year we have also lifted our outlook. So we're expecting to grow between 15% and 20% for 2024 organically. And at the same time, obviously, we have promised a lot of shareholders, our markets, that we have to improve the margins as well. So a part of that is obviously we have to continue working with efficiency. So rather than trying to expand the portfolio, I would say it's more to continue growing where we are growing, and it's almost in all areas we're growing. But it's also at the same time, when we grow like this in the market right now, we have to focus on investing in the future technology. So it's more that how can we make the current portfolio more stronger and more AI adapted. So that's what we're working a lot on right now. But also on some new systems, if we could make, for instance, fighters that are unmanned or surveillance aircrafts like the GlobalEye that we have, could we make that autonomous in the future? So we look at that type of drone technology. We're not going to build the drones, but we're looking into the systems which can operate more intelligently in the future. And that's, so we try to advance more on the technological front than really broadening and trying to access new parts.
And would it be fair to say that from an investment case point of view, Saab is a company that is seeking to grow, seeking to improve profitability? So the baseline is a profitable growth. But then on the capital allocation, what do you think about that? Are you returning a lot to the shareholders? Do you find a lot of investment targets going forward?
Very good, relevant question to ask. I would say actually dare to say that Saab is currently has never been as in good financial shape as it is today, ever. And this is thanks to our, we have a strong balance sheet. We sit on net cash, so we don't have any leverage. And we have a good position in that respect. So we are managing the company in a very conservative and disciplined way. We are our value creation strategy is, like you elaborated on, it is profitable growth. So we are growing pretty strongly, but it's also that has to be profitable. It has to show in the EBIT margin over time, and we have set medium-term targets that our EBIT has to grow faster than the organic growth. And I would say the third most important thing here is that we deliver cash flow. So historically, the defense industry, when you look at defense companies, the cash flow has been a bit volatile and lumpy between years. This is because how certain programs or deliveries are planned in the timeline. So it means that some years we have to invest and do a lot of capex, and we get cash when we deliver the products. So we have stabilized our cash profile as a company the last couple of years, and we have actually promised in our communication, in our targets, that we're going to deliver positive cash flow. And also we have a target which I think is very aligned with creating shareholder value, that we need to have a cash conversion of 70%. So rather than paying out dividends, etc., we have a capital structure. As I said, we have a very strong balance sheet. We sit on cash. We have a lot of flexibility. Financial flexibility. This makes Saab very agile to be able to take opportunities that could come in the future. We do invest a lot, but we also have a very sharp eye on the cash flow, that we need to deliver positive cash flow to generate and maintain our value for our shareholders.
Right. So if all goes well, Saab should be a company that is able to deliver higher cash flows in the future.
We will deliver positive cash flow over the coming years.
That's the game plan. Thank you very much, Merton, for the conversation, and thanks everyone for joining and watching.